Call the Harrisburg Planning Commission meeting to order at approximately 6:33. Commissioners received your minutes, the June 4th minutes, hopefully through the internet. Are there any changes, deletions, additions? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second for the approval of minutes as they are. All those in favor state by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Abstain.
Oh,
'Cause I wasn't here in June, so.
okay, one abstention. Motion carried. Under old business, this is a variance application for 1951 Hurd Street, a zone industrial and commercial neighborhood. This filed by Justin Woodward with complete signs to install a wall sign 50 square feet larger than permitted by right 25 square feet. Is the applicant here?
Oh, yeah.
Could you move?
Yep. So the applicant is proposing to install an internally illuminated wall sign, which is 50 square feet, which is larger than permitted by right, which is 25 square feet in the commercial neighborhood zoning district in which this portion of the property is located. The property at 1951 Hurst Street was previously comprised of two separate tracts that total 0.71 acres, which were consolidated in 2023 as part of a larger land development plan involving the removal of a diner on site and expansion of the gas station and convenience store currently under construction. The property is bounded by Hurst Street to the north, North 20th Street to the east, Kunkel Street to the south, and the property at 1927 Hurst Street to the west. Given that the property is currently under construction, there is not much information to provide regarding the structures on site, although it should be noted the primary structure at the convenience store will be a one-story building characterized by varied facade treatments, including brick, metal, and stone, and large window systems. The main entrance features full-view metal double doors flanked by side lights and topped with transoms. Fenestration is otherwise limited to large storefront windows on either side of the main entrance and a small installation of plate glass windows on the side elevation facing Hurst Street. The remainder of the site features gas pumps on islands underneath a large canopy occupying the eastern half of the property. Hurst Street corridor features little of architectural distinction and is largely characterized by mid-century commercial and industrial buildings or historic institutional structures. Thus, the property does not contribute to the character of the streetscape or neighborhood. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. The site features conditions that justify the requested zoning relief, including a complicated intersection and extensive street furniture, including utility poles, traffic control poles, and signage. The applicant did not have the option of constructing the convenience store in the IND zoned portion of the property, which would have permitted the proposed signage by right, as the site design is necessary to allow appropriate vehicular access and circulation. The proposed signage represents a minor deviation from the zoning code to allow visibility and legibility for drivers traveling along Hurst Street. And finally, the proposed signage would not be out of character for this portion of Hurst Street.
Thank you, Jeff. Could you state your name, address, and relationship to the project?
Okay, my name is Dennis Boyer. I'm the owner of Signature Sign, who was hired to install the sign. I'm not the one that applied for the variance, but we are in Reading, PA, 926 New Holland Road, in Reading, 19607.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions at this time. Commissioners, I'll start with Commissioner O'Toole.
Yeah, I really have no questions. It seems pretty straightforward, and every time we have a sign before us, I go on record stating I think our sign restrictions are too restricted anyhow, so I'm in favor of this.
Commissioner Reed,
No questions.
Commissioner Merrick,
No questions. I think this is straightforward.
Commissioner Jordan.
No questions.
Okay, with that, I'll go to the public. Is there anyone for or against this project? I'll start to my left, to my middle, to my right. Appears to be no objections from the public. Commissioners, could I get a motion? As everyone said, this is pretty straightforward.
Motion to approve with conditions?
No conditions.
There's none.
Yeah.
Second.
It's been moved and second for approval of this project. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Good luck.
Thank you. Didn't even let me, give me all my arguments.
Well, you might, yeah, you might. Yeah,
Thank you,
you
appreciate
end
it.
up arguing against yourself. Okay, under new business, this is a variance application for 600 South 17th Street, which is zoned industrial. It's filed by Ben Oren and Algira MH360. It's to install a second wall sign on site.
Okay, so the application for 600 South 17th Street involves a proposal to install a second wall sign on site, which is 96.6 square feet, where only one wall sign is permitted by right per section 7-325.6 of the zoning code. Thus, the proposal requires zoning hearing board approval of a variance application. Property at 600 South 17th Street is a 5.81 acre lot featuring a one-story, 80,784 square foot structure, which was constructed in 1960. Property is bounded by Brookwood Street to the north, South 17th Street to the east, railroad tracks to the south, and the property at 600 South 15th Street to the west. Its attached structure features elements of a vernacular industrial architectural style. Character-defining features include the substantial building setback from the street, chain-link fence topped with barbed wire encircling the property, painted CMU block facade, large awnings over entrances on the eastern and southern elevations, and loading bays on the western elevation. The main entrance on the eastern elevation features a full-view metal door topped with a simple plate glass transom and flanked by floor-to-ceiling plate glass windows. It is sheltered by a large awning with standing seam metal roof. A secondary access on the southern elevation features a similar full-view metal door without transoms or side lights, which is also sheltered by a large awning with standing seam metal roof. Fenestration otherwise is limited to small plate glass windows on the eastern and southern elevations. Structure is topped with a flat rubber roof. Property features maintained landscaping along the northern and eastern frontages with natural vegetation bordering the railroad lines to the south and a large surface lot providing accessory parking accessible from both Brookwood Street and South 17th Street, occupying the remainder of the site. Although the architectural style differs somewhat from the residential neighborhood directly to the north, it is similar to the massing design of the industrial properties to the east and south. As such, the subject property contributes minimally to the architectural character of the community. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. The proposed signage will better identify the businesses and appropriately direct vehicular traffic to the on-site parking for visitors from the south and specifically from Interstate 83, where the majority of deliveries, shipments, and visitors are anticipated. Aside from the zoning relief required for the additional sign beyond that permitted by right in the IND district, the proposed signage is otherwise in conformance with the size, height, and illumination regulations.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Could you state your name, address, and relationship to the business?
Yeah, Ben Orens, owner of Image 360, which is at, excuse me, 6395, 69 to 51, Suite D, Allentown Boulevard, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17112. And I'm the owner of Image 360, which is the sign company that is installing the sign on behalf of the client.
Okay, thank you. Again, I have no questions. This appears to be straightforward, but I'll start with Commissioner O'Toole for any concerns or questions.
No, I agree with you, Joe. It's pretty straightforward, so no questions.
Okay. Commissioner Reed,
No questions?
Commissioner Murray.
I do have one question. I just, but looking at the plans, which street would the signage be facing? Is it along 17th Street or actually on the back side?
It would be on, well, South 17th Street is the main street that runs along the building. So it would be on South 17th Street. That's where the building face is facing.
That's the, okay.
Correct.
Thank you. I was just trying to get a little orientation.
Yeah.
I think the signage in and of itself is fine. I didn't have any questions on that. I just couldn't visualize which side it was on. Thank you.
Commissioner Jordan,
No questions.
go to the public again. Is there anyone for or against this project? Start from my left, center, to right. Appears no one from the public against this or for it, well, for it or against it. With that, Commissioners, could I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
with conditions.
There's no condition.
No conditions.
Second.
Is there a second? Moved and, second for approval with no conditions. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Good luck.
I was told I had to bring a copy of the deed of the building.
Yeah, that'll be for the zoning hearing board. Yeah, I'll
Okay,
take that.
you want to take it?
Yep.
You got it, man.
Mr. Staff.
All set?
Yep.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, item number 2, this is a variance application for 1332 North Second. It's zone residential medium density. It's filed by Nathan Bittner with Bittner Reynolds. It's to establish a parking lot or structure commercial use. Staff.
Yep, so the application for 1332 North Second Street is a proposal to establish a parking lot or structure of commercial use. Such uses are not permitted by right in the RM district per section 7-305.7 of the zoning code, and thus the proposal requires zoning hearing board approval of a variance application. The property at 1332 North Second Street is a .48 acre lot featuring a 3-story structure resulting from the combination of 3 separate buildings into a funeral home with a total area of 8,428 square feet, which was constructed circa 1987, and a separate storage garage of 2,020 square feet, which was constructed in 1957. The property is bounded by Calder Street to the north, North Second Street to the east, Saferd Street to the south, and the property at 124 Saferd Street and a small grocer's alley to the west. The semi-detached structure features elements of an indeterminate architectural style. Character-defining features include the formstone facade and water table, the multiple access points sheltered by awnings around the building, including the main entrance, sheltered by a large arched awning extending the full width of the sidewalk, the regular fenestration pattern, the upper floor decks on the rear elevation and roof, and the freestanding signs near the parking lot and building entrances. There are multiple entrances throughout the building, although the main entrance on the eastern elevation features paneled double doors and a full view door set in simple frames, which are sheltered by a large awning with square posts and arch section extending to the curb along 2nd Street. Other entrances on the front and side elevations feature the same types of doors and similar awnings. Fenestration on the front elevation features 2/2 windows set in simple formstone surrounds with soldier course headers and sills wrapped in aluminum. Fenestration on the side elevation is more irregular and features 2/2, 1/1, and plate glass windows. The structure is primarily topped with flat rubber roofs. The other major feature of the site is a sizable surface parking lot occupying the southern half of the property, which is bordered by planting beds with trees along the eastern half of the property, eastern frontage with 2nd Street, and a 4-foot-high chain link fence along the southern frontage with Saferd Street. Although the architectural style differs somewhat from nearby buildings, specifically with respect to the formstone and awnings, and the large parking lot distinguishes the property from others in the historic district, the building height, massing, and location along the lot lines does generally reflect the built environment of the surrounding community. As such, the subject property minimally contributes to the architectural character of the neighborhood. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved with the following conditions. The applicant should provide a site plan of the proposed surface parking lot, including aspects such as lined spaces and driveway aisles with dimensions, to confirm that the parking lot will be in conformance with applicable regulations. Site plan should identify ways in which to bring the property into conformance with the applicable zoning regulations, such as the inclusion of landscape screening and possibly trees planted in the corners of the lot. The Planning Bureau recommends the removal of one of the 2nd Street curb cuts to remove a vehicular access point if the applicant does not intend on utilizing both access points, or possibly relocate a vehicular access to Saferd Street. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. Proposed use does not require zoning relief for any proposed development or use, but rather who will be using the existing parking spaces, and thus represents a de minimis deviation from the zoning regulations, which meets the applicable criteria in the zoning code. While the surface parking lots are generally not advisable from a planning perspective, as they represent an underutilization of valuable urban land and create impacts such as stormwater runoff and urban heat island effect, in this instance, it is reasonable to maximize the utility of spaces in an existing lot by leasing parking to local residents. And finally, reuse of the property to accommodate parking demand created by residents and businesses of the surrounding neighborhood can provide benefits by reducing on-street parking near intersections, in crosswalks, and on vacant lots, and the site can be designed to incorporate elements such as landscape screening that improve the aesthetics of the property.
Thank you, Jeff. Could you gentlemen state your name, address, and relationship to the project?
Yes, good evening. My name's Jeff Clark. I'm an attorney at Wixwenger and Widener, address 2805 Old Post Road, Suite 200 in Harrisburg. And I'm joined by Nathan Bittner, who can
He
by
can
himself.
introduce
Yes,
himself.
Nathan Bittner with Bittner Rentals. I am the actual funeral director there as well. Our main office is at 2100 Lingelstown Road, Harrisburg, PA, 17110.
I guess my only question was, I think I know where this is, on Second Street. You're still active? I mean, funeral parlor's still?
It's still active.
So just as a clarification, because this was brought up in the staff report, and I did want to make this clarification. It is very minimally active. I think it averages about one funeral per month. But the ultimate purpose, I think, it would be it is listed for sale, and I think the purpose would ultimately be completely multifamily instead of a funeral home and multifamily. And then, with the rest of it being leased for monthly permit parking to the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay, all right, thank you. Commissioners, I have no other questions at this time. And I'll start with Commissioner Ochu if there's any concerns or questions.
Yeah, just got a lot of catching up here to do. Wix Wanger's no longer on Second Street?
No, we actually moved to off Lingelstown Road and sold the building. And actually, although it's been continued, there's further down the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Is,
I guess I should have read down the agenda.
is the repurposing of our building, but still serving Harrisburg area, but now
Okay.
in Susquehanna Township.
And I guess the funeral home's in the process of possibly going out of business on Second Street or
Well,
relocating.
we have two other locations here in Harrisburg, and it seems like a lot of the downtown business has been going to those locations.
All right.
Because they're closer to the cemetery, other cemeteries.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you, what are the other ones in the city, the funeral homes, that is?
There's, I don't think there is any other one. There might be Kimmel's on Market Street if they're still open.
Yeah.
But
may
our
not-
two locations are in Susquehanna Township.
Okay. Where am I going to be laid out? Okay. I always like to patronize the city, but, yeah, other than that, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Good questions. Commissioner Reed,
No questions.
okay. Commissioner Merrick,
Yeah, I do have a few questions. Is the building currently for sale then?
It is listed, yes.
Okay. Are you planning on modifying the current parking lot? I didn't see any plans of the parking lot itself.
So I think the ordinance does have requirements for an off-street parking lot, which we would have to create a plan for. We haven't created a plan, I guess, and actually, that was one point of clarification I had for the staff is, do we need that plan for the zoning hearing board, or is that if we're granted the variance, we would need the plan when applying for the permit?
Well, I would say so long as the aspects of the property, like the size of the parking spaces and stuff, were in conformance with the zoning code, that wouldn't need to be there before the zoning hearing board. If there were going to be any deviations, we would probably want to see it there because those might need to be discussed before the zoning hearing board. But, I mean, currently, the existing property is fully paved. It has been operating as a parking lot of sorts for the business. So, it could certainly be relined. But, so long as that can be done in conformance with the zoning code, I don't think that need is an imminent need.
Okay. So I guess in further answer to your question, I think our intent would be to be in compliance with the zoning code as to the requirements for a parking lot.
Yeah.
It is used as a parking lot. It already has lines, but
Right.
especially if a condition is imposed about closing there's two entrances on Second Street, I think if one of them is closed, I think it would have to be reconfigured. And so, we ultimately would have to have a plan, but I think the goal would be to have it in compliance.
And the reason I noted the recommendation on the relocation is because I noticed one of the driveways was chained off. So I didn't know if there was a long-term plan to relocate an access point or something.
Maybe you could answer that, Nathan.
No, we keep it chained off just because there have been times people abuse the space. And so we kind of chained it off, but when we have funerals, I mean, we have it open, and people come and go.
Yeah, okay. I think that clarifies that. That's the line that I was thinking, Jeff, about the zoning code and just the parking requirements. And I mean, ultimately, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. If you were to sell the building and then that owner were to change the building and convert to more multifamilies, then they would have to provide parking
Correct.
for
And-
those units, but that would not fall upon their shoulders.
Well, so
Or
there
would
are,
it?
there are actually, I think, 5 units in the building now. So it's got an unusual configuration of funeral home, first
Yeah.
floor, apartments above. And I would anticipate that for any new owner, they would have to be providing parking for the residents of the
Yes.
building.
Yeah,
And currently, the tenants of the apartments do park in that parking lot.
yeah.
And
right.
so, I think it would be assumed that any additional tenants would get parking spaces to comply with that, and then the remainder would be monthly permitted.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely support the need for additional parking in that neighborhood. It can be a challenge, especially on street cleaning days. In this area, it's not in the standard parking.
Correct.
Right, I saw in your case report, so it's abutting it.
It is. It runs
it's not-
down
yeah.
Second Street, and then I think west along Verbeck.
Okay, so they're just outside
Correct.
where they're not competing. There's no issue there. Okay, I was thinking about that. Oh, that's it. I don't have any other questions, thanks.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yeah, just one question. So you're saying on average now you're currently having about one funeral a month, correct?
Correct.
So when that does occur with the current tenants that you have there, or are you experiencing any type of, I guess, logistics issue as far as parking and running a service? All right. That's all.
I think it's generally coordinated with the tenants, and they're sort of warned, and,
Tenants
but,
there are great.
but there are 40 spaces, so I think it tends to be plenty.
Understood. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public, which is getting less and less, for or against this project? Start with the center, go to my right. If not, Commissioners, could I get a motion?
Motion to approve with conditions?
Is there a second? Moved to second for approval with the conditions. All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Get a space for you. The next one is the item number 3. This is the variance and special exception application for 2001 Lennox Street. It's zone residential, medium density, followed by raised construction, and to convert the existing single-family dwelling to a 2-unit multi-family dwelling.
Yes, so the proposal for 2001 Lennox Street represents the conversion of the existing structure to a 2-unit multifamily dwelling, which requires zoning hearing board approval of a special exception for the proposed use and relief from the off-street parking requirements per section 7-305.7 and 7-327.6 of the zoning code respectively, and a variance for relief from the density regulations in section 7-307.3 of the zoning code. Property at 2001 Lennox Street is a .04 acre lot featuring a 2 1/2 story, 2,400 square foot structure, which was constructed in 1920. Property is bounded by Lennox Street to the north, the property at 2003 Lennox Street to the east, Chalky Alley to the south, and South 20th Street to the west. This semi-detached structure features elements of a vernacular architectural style. Character-defining features include the painted brick facade, the large deck fronting the enclosed former front porch, the two-story deck on the rear elevation with a wide wooden fire escape, the gabled roof clad in standing seam metal roof, and the detached garage with wooden swing-out doors. The main entrance features a wooden door fronted by a three-quarter view storm door. It is accessed by a wooden porch and concrete steps. There are secondary entrances accessible via the rear porch and fire escape. Fenestration also includes 21 wooden windows in a variety of pane configurations and settings. The first floor features divided light windows, primarily in 2/2 and 6/6 configurations, while the upper floors feature primarily 1/1 windows. Structure is topped with a clipped gambrel roof clad in standing seam metal. There is a detached hip brick garage at the rear of the property with wooden side-hinged garage doors with a hip roof clad in asphalt shingles. As a semi-detached structure, the building mirrors architectural features of its pair to the east, although there are differentiations in some aspects, such as the porch and rear elevation, and generally reflects the massing of other properties in the surrounding neighborhood. As such, the building does contribute to the architectural and historic character of the streetscape and neighborhood. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved with the following conditions. If granted zoning approval to move forward with the project as proposed, the applicant shall allow the Codes Bureau to perform a comprehensive inspection to identify any outstanding code violations and will receive approval for all necessary city permits prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy. And I'd note that I believe the applicants have been in coordination with the city's Codes Bureau on inspection of the property. And the applicant must remove the fence between the driveway and Chalky Alley, which is currently blocking the public right-of-way, and require tenants to either park in the garage or on the street to ensure that an ADA-compliant sidewalk is maintained along South 20th Street. Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. The zoning relief requests for the proposed use are warranted by the history of the property, which has operated in the past as 2 units, as well as the configuration of the property, in which existing features such as the rear fire escape to the second floor provides a building code required secondary egress. The project will address the primary concern of the public regarding such conversions, specifically the impact on parking available to existing residents through the provision of the required parking in the detached garage at the rear of the property, and due to the availability of ample on-street parking along the frontage of the property with South 20th Street and Lennox Street.
Thank you, Jeff. Could you state your name, address, and relationship to the project?
My name is Sambhu Acharya. I'm owner of 2001 Lennox Street. My address is 6431 Britain Road, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17111.
My name is Gerald Radzik. I'm a general contractor. My address is 4908 Sunset Drive, Harrisburg, 17112.
Okay. Both of you heard the conditions. Are you acceptable of those conditions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything that in the conditions has already been planned out,
Okay.
except the removal of the fence, which he has no problem.
With that, I don't have any questions at this moment. So Commissioners, I'll go to you with the questions or concerns. Commissioner O'Toole?
Yeah, no, just looking at these pictures, I mean, I'm surprised. Yeah, it does look like it's coming in already.
Yes.
We're all in favor of anything that gets more affordable living in the city.
And just to clarify, this is similar to the property for 3100 North 3rd Street, where at one point it operated as 2 units. The commissioners may remember that it had a 3-space garage at the rear of it, but it hadn't been occupied as 2 units for like 20-some years. So per the zoning code, the former non-conforming aspect was vacated and it reverted to the underlying zoning. So just to clarify that aspect.
Commissioner Reed?
No questions.
Commissioner Hurd?
No, I don't think I have any questions. It looks like the variance requirement actually goes away because they have the square footage.
For the specific criteria, not for the density.
Oh, okay. Okay. But beyond that, it looks like they could potentially provide at least 2 street parking spaces if they fix the garage or
Well, there are
do something
two
with that.
spaces right outside the garage that are concrete that you park.
I
Well-
thought those infringe on the right of, public right
Yeah,
of way,
so those
though.
aren't technically spaces because
Yeah.
they'd be blocking the sidewalk. And,
Yeah.
and I know that there wasn't a sidewalk at the property of the South 2008 Paxton Street, which was a car dealership for a long time. But when they reconstructed it, we had them put in sidewalks in the public right of way. So now there is like a path across Chalky Alley there, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're able to repair that garage or even just remove the doors, you would have 2 parking spaces that could be utilized.
Yeah,
And
as
out-
soon as
out of the
we
right
get
of way.
the approval, then definitely I have a plan to do that.
I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Jordan?
No further questions.
Okay, I'll go to the public. No one on my left, no one in the center, and go to my right. Okay, could you come
Please,
up
yeah.
to the microphone, state your name and address?
Anyway, she's my tenant on top floor now.
Yes. I'm Talisha Chisholm. I live at 2001 Lenox Street. We're on floor 2. We have 6 occupants on the second floor. And it's a lot of us there. But I'm nervous about the construction because the foundation doesn't look even. Like, and we're already occupying. So it just looks like it's gonna disturb. I have 2 disabled children, and it looks like it's gonna be like a disturbance for us. And the only way to get down to the front is like to go out front is through the regular way to come downstairs, and you got to go through the unit that he's making downstairs. We have to go through that to access the front door right now, and I guess that's what he's trying to, construct into just the one, like so both units could access the front. But it's concerning because we're there already, and the structure, like it just when you go up the stairs, it's already kind of leaning, which makes me nervous for my family. And I did want to come and say that to you guys because it's not just myself, but I have children. I have a fiance. I fell down the back stairs already. Because when we moved in, I didn't know it was mossy. I didn't know anything about any moss, but I fell down and fractured my tailbone. Already in the back, and I had city code came out because of that, and then it's like a lot of different things going on in the unit, and we already spoke on it, me and the landlord, about like he's trying to fix things. I'm not gonna say he's not, but I just wish they were already fixed before we got there. But I didn't know all this stuff was going to take place right at that time, when we were moving in, because our lease was up where we were moving from. So I was just trying to find somewhere for me and my 4 children, me and my family. So we moved in, and it's a lot of things going on in the unit. Like we have electrical problems, we have like pests, we have rats, and roaches, and I'm here because I need to know what's going on with our home. We have to live in this house. We're here. So I have a voice, and I wanted to use it today because I feel like it's hard right now. We don't know what to do. And when we moved in, it's also we don't have a living room. We don't have a dining room. We only have 4 bedrooms and a kitchen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you respond
let me explain. I bought this property in January.
Could you speak into the microphone?
It has a different condition. I improve a lot because they have a two electrical panel. It's old panel, and I changed the new panel board already there, and some of the electrical the lines were not working fine. And yesterday, I always taking care. As soon as they complain about anything, I went there and bring some people to fix it immediately, because we haven't started the construction yet. So whatever the problem they have, we fixed it. Like the electrical panel already, we put the new panel board over there, two panel board, and all the pest control, because we tried to do the treatment, but it's not work. She also did, I did, we tried, and I contracted the pest control, Fox Pest Control Company, and yesterday they did all the treatment for whole house, and they are doing again next 2 weeks also they do. For the in and out, because whenever we rented the property, she checked, and she satisfied, said husband and wife is hug each other, said like very much, and I didn't enforce them to rent the property, and they rented. And anyway, whatever the problem they have, I always do the treatment, and the pest control I already contracted for the exit. I opened both the side, the kitchen side. They have a wooden porch, and other side, because we are trying to put a hallway downside to exit both the unit. They can exit to exit, and now temporarily I allowed them to use whatever you want the exit. And when the construction would begin, then some interruption would be there, but it's not mean we do construction in the night or early in the morning, but daytime definitely we do construction. And he said he will complete by 3 weeks. Thank you.
And
Add anything to it?
Well, her concerns with the structure, I don't know if there's any pictures of the basement, but somebody has done a massive job of shoring up that property. When I talked to you several times, or messaged you, and when I had the codes inspector out, we took them in the basement, and they were like, whoa, who did this? It's all restructured in the basement. There's no, yes, the building sagged. We can't take the sag out of the 3-story building, but they restructured the whole building, so there's no problem with the structure, okay? As far as concerns with the construction going on while she's there, the way I understood it is her lease said that there's going to be construction as soon as it was approved, and that she would have a hallway eventually that goes out the front door only.
That I mentioned
This
before.
was supposed to be explained to her when her lease was written. I wasn't there for that. But we went over that, I said, make sure they know that they use the downstairs for now, and when you get the approvals, because he needed to get some money coming in on his property, obviously, that when you get the approvals, we're going to make the stairs go straight down and out the front door, and then she'll be only on the 2nd and 3rd floor. So that's where we're at with that. We're good with that. Yes, it has pest control problems, but it's adjoined. So you can kill yours, but you can't kill your neighbors.
Because it's a joint house, and pest control
So-
people also said it takes a little time, because other house also is adjoining, and both side is gonna treat, because I cannot ask other, landlord to, you treat your house, it affect my
Right,
house.
we can only treat our side.
So there's an adjoining structure to this,
Yes, it's basically what I call a half a double.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I did too.
No, it's
No.
like an upstairs and
It's
downstairs
upstairs,
kind of
downstairs.
duplex, yeah.
Which already had the kitchens existing with a stairway between the two floors.
Yeah.
Which never made any sense to me, but
And to some of the questions brought up by Ms. Chisholm, you know, that's why we put in the, as a condition that there be a thorough comprehensive Codes Bureau inspection, because there may be electrical work that was done previously that may not be up to current code, issues with the sagging. It sounds like, you know, I know that sometimes happens in old houses, but it sounds like there's some shoring up. But if that's not shored up appropriately, our Codes Bureau will note that, and they'll give them the appropriate treatments to ensure that, because they're not going to sign off on somebody living in a home that could potentially, you know, collapse or something. So that thorough codes inspection is designed to ensure that not only the proposed unit is going to be habitable and safe, but that the existing unit is as well.
right, when we started this project, the first thing I did was call the codes department and have the rental codes guy come out and look at the property. And two of them came out, and they thought it was a great property. They thought it was great, just needed this hallway to divide the two units. So it's been sort of inspected by the city.
That's my question, was the codes, you're requiring the codes to check on it, right?
And I believe that, as I said, I believe there's been some preliminary things, but being that they didn't have approval to create the second unit yet, I'm sure that some of the more thorough things that you would go through when creating that were having to wait until they get approval from the zoning hearing board. Yeah, the codes inspection.
As soon as I approve, then
We probably
will
spent,
apply.
the three of us probably spent an hour and a half at the property. We went from the third floor to the basement. Every unit, every closet, bathroom, they looked it over fair.
Right, but there should be.
Yeah, there's, oh, yes, I'm not debating it, I'm just saying that it has been looked at. I wouldn't have started this project without getting codes out there, just because it's a different situation.
What was on the first floor?
It's a unit,
It is a unit, but it's
There's-
empty.
well,
Empty.
first floor has a kitchen, a living room, and a dining room, and then a front porch, okay? And then
But
there's,
no bedrooms.
no, it's like a one unit, we're gonna make a bedroom in the plan.
So it's a single family?
Yes.
It was
And then upstairs has a kitchen, 4 bedrooms, a bathroom, a half I mean, it's,
One and a half bathroom.
yeah, it's a whole nother apartment.
I think it's always tough to tell with these when, you know, there were two units in the 90s, for example, again, and then somebody buys it and they live in it by themselves, and for 20, 25 years, as the case may be in this particular property. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes they have weird configurations. Sometimes they bring in maybe like their in-laws and they just give them a kitchen somewhere to you know, make them happy and give them their own space. So, you know, that's why we want to make sure that they're going through the appropriate zoning approvals to get approvals for these, and also that the Codes Bureau is doing their inspections to make sure this stuff is up to code.
And that's what we're doing. Go back to the electrical boxes. He paid somebody $4,000 to change the panels on my word, because they were Federal Pacific panels, and I don't know if you know what Federal Pacific means, but they're junk. Insurance companies won't insure them, because those panels scare me, because breakers don't turn off in. So he had the panels changed, and he's been finding problems a little bit here and there, and he's been fixing them. So,
And I also want to note that one of the conditions in here stated by Jeff is that to allow you guys to allow a code bureau to perform another comprehensive.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
so, and you agreed to that,
Yes.
so.
yes, it's.
Any other concerns, commissioners?
Question, so then at this point, are you blocking that front egress
No.
from them being
No.
able to
They
get
can
out?
use it right now. The only time they're not gonna be able to use it is when I have to reconfigure the stairs. And that'll be a week or so. We'll have to do something.
I'm just, that's a code, if they don't have
I-
two, you know,
I
there
know.
needs to be proper.
But that's what
communication.
we're creating, is their second egress.
I understand.
Yeah, I know, it's they're gonna be there but I have to tear out stairs
Right, and, yeah.
and
chicken
reconfigure
egg.
them so they come out in the hallway rather than come out in the living room of the first floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
No, no, no. You had to say. Is there anyone else on this side that has concern with this project? See your hands up. Can you state your name and address?
My name is Antoine Washington. I also live at 2001 Lenox Street. And my question is, when they do the construction, we will have to use the back steps again, the same steps that she fell from the first time. So is that's just my only question. Like, so we have to use them same steps again? Also, they're more dangerous when it's raining than when it's not. So they're not just, they're slippery steps. They're not just like, I mean, he said he was gonna paint it, so maybe that might help, you know. And he's not a bad guy. He does fix the things that he said he was. He's trying. I give him that. But I'm still concerned about like how we gonna get up and down the steps because he told us not to use the front. We got to check the mailbox. The mailbox is in the front. Like, so it's like it's like those type of things are my questions. And that's all I wanted to know. Like, other than that, thank you.
Initially, I proposed them to use that as an emergency and do the front one, the regular, but they feel not comfortable, then I allowed them to use both side. Even the downside is it open, for all the floor and the room, and I asked them to, okay, use the other side also. So I allowed them, because until I knew the problem, then I don't know. But if I knew the problem, then I allowed them. I never stopped them to use it.
Just a quick question. He was concerned about safety on the stairway. Is there any?
they're pressure-treated stairs, and they're kind of shaded by a big tree, so they do get, it's pressure-treated, it gets slimy if it's hidden.
I
It's
already
under shade.
did the power wash, everything.
right. They've been power
and now
washed.
it's okay.
We could probably put some non-skid material on the treads.
I'm going to
Resolve it.
paint it. I'm going to paint it in this weekend.
But you can't just
Non-spray.
paint it, you have to put non-skid,
Yes.
Yeah.
non-skid.
No, that also I
Okay. Is there any other one concerns over here? Okay. I say to the residents, you need to also let your landlord know some of your concerns. It seems like they're doing everything to fix it up right now. So if you had other concerns, I would say, talk to you. Seem like they're acceptable of things that might be your concerns. So for the future, you might want to think about that. The only other thought I heard I know you might not be able to control it, but maybe the pest control, because I know office buildings and everything else, they always have some pest guy come out and whatever.
That I already contacted, sir. I
Yeah,
already
he has
contacted
a
them.
contract
They already
for that.
started.
They've
the
already
work.
sprayed.
They already.
They were out yesterday and they're on a contract.
One
to
of the
continue.
company I contacted, but they did not schedule. So I found another company and do it right away.
Okay. Any other concerns, commissioners? Great, Commissioner Page, you're okay.
Yeah, he's.
Oh, Commissioner Wood.
Yes, so in reference to the back stairs, and I don't know if this is a question for Jeffrey, if I'm just kind of talking out loud here. Is there a possibility to, like you're saying, like putting on like the adhesive, like, kind of like the grit?
I'd rather use non-skid paint, because the adhesive glues on, the paint stays longer.
I mean, I think he's probably has a lot of experience
We are
in
preparing to do
the
the
construction
project because I already
industry.
power wash.
Yeah, because I guess my concern is not only just for the construction, but maybe just going forward. Because just incidentally, just personally, my deck is the same way. It gets slimy and
Right.
it's very
So
slippery.
yeah.
So, not only for any construction, but just going forward, if there could be some type of installation of like
The paint would actually seal the wood and stop that slime.
Okay, would it prevent, preventing the slime, yes, but would it be a safety concern just in general from it just raining?
No, because it's non-skid. It's paint with sand in it.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was looking for.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
it's a
That's
sand paint, yeah.
right.
Commissioners, any other concerns? Could I get a motion on the project?
Motion to approve conditions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second for approval with the conditions. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. So, with what you heard tonight,
Yep, we just continue with Jeffrey and.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I would make sure you work with your tenants there, just to
Yeah.
make sure that
Yeah,
they're
Yes,
safe.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
We'll take care of them.
thank you.
So, all right, thank you very much. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 4, this is a variance application for 315 North Second. It's zoned commercial neighborhood filed by Adam Bredman with Bredman Properties LLC. It's to convert the existing office building into a 10-unit multifamily dwelling.
Okay, the variance application for 315 North Second Street is a proposal to convert the existing office building into a 10-unit multifamily dwelling, which requires zoning hearing board approval of a variance from the density regulations outlined in section 7-307.3 A of the zoning code. The buildings on site will be converted into 1 and 2 bedroom units ranging in size from 486 square feet to 1,290 square feet. Property at 315 North Second Street is a .1 acre lot featuring 3 attached buildings, a 2 1/2 story, 2,332 square foot structure, a 3-story, 2,700 square foot structure, and a 3-story, 4,938 square foot structure, all of which were constructed circa 1900. Property is bounded by Barber Street to the north, the property at 210 Pine Street to the east and south, and North Second Street to the west. These attached varying structures, which are or will be internally connected, feature elements of varying architectural styles. The southernmost of the 3 buildings features elements of the federal architectural style. Character-defining features include the painted brick facade, the arched entryway, an awning and access ramp at the rear entrance, and the regular fenestration pattern. The main entrance is recessed behind an arched entryway featuring wide pilasters, a keystone, and a decorative sconce, and features a paneled door flanked by divided light side lights and topped with a sunburst transom featuring the property address. Fenestration on the front elevation includes 5 12/12 windows with wooden sills and decorative brick headers, which all feature painted wooden shutters. There are additional 5 divided light windows on the side and rear elevations. The structure is topped with a gable roof clad in asphalt shingles. The middle building features elements of the Italianate architectural style. Character-defining features include the painted brick facade and water table, the decorative metal grates over the basement windows, the former entryway converted into a Juliet balcony, the consistent fenestration pattern, the 3-story bay window, and the decorative stepped brick cornice. The main entrance is no longer accessible from the street as the stairs were removed prior to October 2008 and replaced with a decorative metal railing, but features a wooden paneled door set in a simple frame and topped with a sconce. The entryway previously featured an arched brick surround, which has since been infilled with brick. Fenestration on the front elevation includes 17 divided light wooden windows set in simple wooden frames. Those on the first and second floors include storm windows. There are an additional 5 divided light wooden windows on the rear elevation, which also include storm windows. The structure is topped with a flat rubber roof. The northernmost of the 3 buildings features elements of the classical revival architectural style. Character-defining features include the painted brick facade, the double-sided access stairs, the regular fenestration pattern, the substantial cornice featuring brick pilasters, decorative brick and wooden elements, and a central embattlement with narrow windows, and a large 3-story decorative brick chimney on the side elevation. The main entrance features a paneled wooden door set in a simple paneled frame, flanked by sconces and topped with a divided light transom. It is accessed by bidirectional brick steps with a simple metal railing. Fenestration on the front elevation includes 5 9/9 windows with brick sills and headers, which all feature painted wooden shutters. There are an additional 11 divided light windows on the side elevation and 2 dormers topped with substantial pediments on the side roof flanking the rear chimney. The structure is topped with a gable roof clad in real slate shingles. The buildings retain a significant amount of their architectural and historic integrity and exhibit a unique configuration of 3 conjoined structures of differing architectural styles and, although they differ significantly from other properties on the block, particularly those to the north and south, they reflect many of the same architectural features as other historic properties throughout the downtown historic district. As such, the structures contribute significantly to the eclectic and diverse architectural and historic character of the streetscape and neighborhood. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved with the following conditions. If the applicant receives approval of the requisite zoning relief requests, they must secure city council approval of a land development plan for the proposed conversion. Any exterior alterations to the building will receive approval from the historic preservation specialist, or if necessary, receive hard approval of a COA application. Planning Bureau recommends the applicant consider differentiating the facades of the 3 buildings to reestablish their original identities. If the referenced parking spaces are not on the subject property, the applicant should provide a signed lease agreement to allow parking at those spaces. And just to clarify, I think the applicants in their application indicated that there were 8 spaces at the back of the property, but when looking at the property on the city's zoning map and the county's tax parcel viewer, it appears that that rear property is part of the 210 Pine Street property, so there might be an issue with the county's records, but from my reading of it, it looked like those are on a different property. They may have an existing lease for those because of the existing office building that's on site, but I just wanted to clarify that. We have Verizon, it's now Verizon, yes. And then finally, the applicant will coordinate with the Department of Public Works to ensure that the account billing reflects the establishment of the proposed uses on site and to identify the appropriate refuse storage and collection needs. Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. The internal configuration of 3 attached buildings, specifically the locations of aspects such as walls, stairs, and doors, windows, compels the reorganization of space into more units than would be permitted by right, and the components necessary for the establishment of the by right multifamily use, such as additional kitchens and bathrooms, requires investment that is compensated for through the addition of additional units. The proposed reuse will add new residents to the neighborhood to activate the street on nights and weekends and grow a customer base to support local businesses, and will provide additional units to the downtown housing inventory. The range of unit sizes and the mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units will accommodate a variety of household sizes and needs, helping to further diversify the downtown housing inventory. And finally, other conversions of former office buildings in the surrounding neighborhood have demonstrated that proposed use will not adversely impact the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Jeff. Could you state your names, address, and relationship to the project?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight. My name is Phil Petrina, McNeese, Wallace, and Nurick, 100 Pine Street, on behalf of the applicant, Brenneman Properties LLC, who is also here tonight.
Yeah, appreciate everyone having us. Adam Brenneman, owner of Brenneman Properties LLC, 3423 Canyon Creek, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you. You both heard the staff report with the conditions. Are you acceptable of those conditions?
Yes, and we just have a short presentation here tonight. I will pass out some exhibits just to make sure we're all looking at the same thing here, but recognizing, I think that we're the only one standing in between everyone and the holiday. I'm hoping that this will be quick.
Thanks.
Yep. So as Mr. Knight so eloquently laid out, we generally concur with the comments made in the staff report. Applicant is looking to, is under an agreement of sale for the property with the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. It's been their existing use since 1996. We did want to clarify, before I get to my exhibits here, wanted to clarify the parking. The parking was included in the agreement of sale for the property, the 8 parking spaces behind the building. So during the due diligence period of this agreement of sale, which is due to close at the end of July, Our impression is that the county tax mapper may have been incorrect. But during the due diligence process, we believe that the parking situation will be clarified as they were part of the contract. So they will, either at the end of the due diligence be owned by the applicant or will be deeded to the applicant by the end of closing to the extent there are any discrepancies. So just to orient the commission to where this property is located, if you turn to Exhibit A1 that I passed out, that's a large aerial image overview of the property at 315 North 2nd Street. If you're looking to the north, that's the continuation of the Verizon building. Looking just west is the former Bridges Social Club, which is now just a vacant restaurant property. To the south of 315 North 2nd would be the Harmony Towers and a few restaurants and convenience stores. And then further to the east of the property is the large brick Verizon building along 2nd Street. This property is located in the commercial neighborhood district and is one of the historic buildings along North 2nd Street that applicant intends and will preserve as much of the history of this building as possible as part of the conversion from office to residential. It was one of the big driving points of this property here. Turning to Exhibit A2, these are the Google Street View images of the property, just so that everyone is familiar with what the exterior facade looks like. You have Barber Street that runs along the western side of the property, looking at it from the street, and then the third Google Street image is that back parking lot. Again, which was included as part of the agreement of sale the applicant is under contract to purchase and close on by the end of July. So now turning to Exhibit A3 is the floor plan. And so we'll just talk a little bit about what applicant plans to do here, but this is intended to be as shown on the floor plans, a 10-unit apartment multifamily conversion, which is permitted by right in the CN Commercial Neighborhood District. The parking is pursuant to the zoning ordinance in the Commercial Neighborhood District and in the Downtown Center District is exempt from the parking requirements. However, applicant is providing those 8 additional spaces. So we saw that as an added benefit of this property, and again, was one of the major selling points of the transaction. The 10 dwelling units in the building, there will be a unit mix of 6 one-bedroom units and 4 two-bedroom units. The approximate average square footage of those units collectively is 718.7 square feet. And the units will be spanned across 2 floors of the building. And so tonight, we are here to request a recommended approval of our variance request in the application from the density requirement of Section 7-307 of the zoning ordinance to permit 10 dwelling units at this property. The applicant is here tonight to answer any questions that the commission might have, but is very excited and anxious about this project with the opportunity to redevelop a really awesome building along North 2nd Street in a much-needed area for additional housing and hopefully more foot traffic for the businesses and restaurants in the commercial neighborhood district and also that downtown center district right next to it. So with that, we will request a recommended approval and concur with Mr. Knight's report, and then I will yield to the commission for questions.
Jeff, as far as the parking concern right now, based on what he said, is there still any concerns about who owns it, or?
No, I would, like I said, I would guess that those are on the adjacent property, but my guess is that they've had a long-standing lease for those, and that's why they're discussing them as like deeded with with that property. They've, probably been leasing them to the business that's operating in the property. I mean, they've presumably been parking there. So I would guess that's how it works out, but regardless of whether they own it or they're leasing it, like long-term leasing, in my opinion, that's the same thing. It's about the provision of the parking, and it seems like they have that in hand.
Okay. And as far as the parking again, I know you have the 8 spaces. It would be sort of nice if you were providing the 2 other spaces for your tenants, or like at least some spaces in the parking places downtown. So just something to think about.
To the extent possible, I think that, we will evaluate that, and if possible, to add additional spaces in compliance, obviously, with the zoning ordinance and the dimensional requirements of the parking. That's certainly something that we will evaluate and take into consideration here.
Okay. Commissioners, right now, that's my only question, but we'll come back to that. Commissioner O'Toole, do you have any concerns or questions?
No, well, not really. We're seeing a lot of this right now, conversion from commercial office spaces to residential. That's a good thing. We're all behind that. And when it happens, the only issue we have is density. And Jeffrey, you have no problem with that?
Yeah, as I noted, I think the probably unique interior of the building being that it's 3 connected buildings, and like where those stairs are, where those features are. And I think in the way they've laid out the different apartments, where they're not just, all the same square footage, tiny little apartments, seeing as many as they can cram into the nooks and crannies there. They have a diversity of sizes and styles of their apartments. I think it's clear they're not just trying to maximize the number of units in there, I think. And so I think it's always tough to say, what is the minimum number of units to make a project financially viable. I think it's not a surprise that everything's more expensive right now, the numbers have to be kind of increased a little bit to make projects work. And I think that the layout of the interior is, reasonable from that perspective.
All right. And Mr. Brenneman, it appears that Ryan Herr is not a partner of yours in this?
He has the opportunity to be if he wants to.
Well, then I can't vote for it. No, yeah, you got my support. No further questions.
Commissioner Reed.
This is a follow-up to the previous question, and this is for staff as well. In your comments here, you indicated that you feel that more information is necessary to justify why 10 units are necessary rather than 8, for example.
I mean, I think that's, working on the margins a little bit of I know it can be difficult for developers to provide pro formas, numbers are changing, stuff like that. I know a lot of times developers don't often want that out there because that might be their proprietary information for how they do projects, and they don't want their competitors to have. So it would be, I think, kind of helpful if they were able to provide, more to clarify that difference. But that all being said, like I said, looking at the layout of the structure and the way they've got their units laid out, I mean, it seems rational.
I would just respond to that comment and saying that an analysis was done and numbers run by engineers to determine what would be the maximum number of units that would comfortably fit in this property, while also still being financially feasible for the developer, and that number is what was reached at 10 dwelling units. The full analysis of that, we can produce evidence of how we arrived at that number at the zoning hearing board, but that was the rationale, and a lot of intentionality and thought went behind how we arrived at that number. And throughout the planning process, before we got it to this point, that number did change a few times, just reflecting the thought that Mr. Brenneman had put into it and how we can optimize this space.
Yeah, and I'll add too, something that was important to me was, from a development standpoint, this building could feasibly hold a lot more than 10 units. But I wanted to make sure that this building and the units were good size, that we had a range, as Mr. Knight said, of 2-bedroom units, and we have a unit over 1,000 square feet, units that are good size, and that mix of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, which I think is very, very feasible and be great for the neighborhood.
Commissioner Merrick.
I really just echo my other commissioners' comments about the number of units and providing justification for that need to meet the variance requirements. And ultimately, that's gonna come down to zoning. We'll make that decision. But I had the same question about whether 10 units is necessary and is it justified? Beyond that, I am in favor of converting this type of property back to probably its more intended use, which would be residential, living, and the location. And I'm sure if the parking is part of the sale agreement, that will get reflected in the deed and probably land development. You'll need to submit a land development plan, so we'll
Yes.
see that reflected in
Correct.
there. That's it.
Commissioner Jordan.
The only question I had is, have you guys started to consider what your proposed rental rate range might be for these units?
Yeah, we have started to run the numbers on it. These were, as of this time, market rate units. And, as you know, the rates change based on, the time of year and when we go to market. We would hope that we are leasing these units up in 2026 at some point, the middle of 2026, at market rate rents.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That was
Okay. Is there anyone from the public on my right for or against this project? Okay. As my commissioner said, I think it's a good project. We all like to see the downtown fill up with people again, and this seems to be one of those projects that will help that out. And the other, is there anything in there like office building presently, or anybody in those buildings?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm sorry, are there any occupants in those buildings at the present time, like office or?
Right now? It's the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, and they're actually, if they haven't already moved out, they're in the process of moving out, just because they don't need the office space anymore. So they listed it for sale, and Mr. Brenneman was able to enter into a contract with them to purchase it, because they are downsizing in office space. So there won't be any occupants of it by closing.
Okay, just was wondering. Commissioners, could I get a motion on this project? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second for approval of this project with the conditions. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Good luck, Deborah.
Thank you. Have a good holiday, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay, moving right along, item number 5. This was a variance application for 508 and 510 West Second Street, Zone Commercial Neighborhood, filed by David Butcher with WCI Partners, LP. It was to convert the existing office building into multi-family dwellings with a total of 11 units. It appears that the applicant has requested a continuance to the August 6th HPC meeting. Commissioners, could I get a motion on this?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moving to second to have a continuance. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions, motion carried. 6, land development plan application for 508, 510 North Second Street, Zone Commercial Neighborhood, filed by David Butcher with WCIP Partners, LP, to establish 11 total units between the two buildings. Applicant has requested a continuance to the August 6th HPC meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second for continuation of the land development plan to the August 6th meeting. All those in favor state by saying aye. Opposed and abstention, motion carried. Item number 7, land development plan application for 1081 Elliott Street, Zone Industrial, is filed by Charlotte Katzenmoyer with Capital Region Water. It's construction, industrial building, and associated site and excess improvements. Applicant has requested a continuance to the August 6th HPC meeting. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and second for approval or to have the continuation. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions, motion carried. Okay, other business, you mentioned a new member maybe?
Yes, so I believe there was a nomination for a member who was heard last night, correct?
Yes.
Last night's city council meeting for Basir Vincent. So I think he'll probably be getting a final vote at the July 8th meeting, so I would imagine he would be in attendance at the August 6th meeting, presuming he's approved.
What's his background?
I didn't look too much through his resume.
For city council.
Yep, he was running for city council. Mr. Vincent was pretty involved in the comprehensive plan process, especially towards the end of the process. So he is familiar, with planning in the city and more specifically with the comprehensive plan. His run for city council, I think, demonstrates a passion and a commitment to the city of Harrisburg. So, all of those things I think would make him a good candidate for the 7th seat.
Then he had like a group of citizens.
Mhm.
I think he took part in one of our meetings, maybe virtually.
He also, he started Young People of Color, a group that's been very, active in Harrisburg.
Mhm.
Young professionals.
Yes.
Anybody get excited about the comprehensive plan work?
Apparently he held like teaching sessions or something.
Yep.
like that,
That's
so-
what I was gonna,
Yep. I did meet with him at one point, I think maybe in 2019 or 2020, kind of towards the end of the process. So, and again, I could tell he was passionate about the city and about making, sure that we are following our planning documents in the projects that we're reviewing.
Yeah, sorry I missed him on the city council race. Anything for the good of the order for the commissioners?
this is a brutal meeting, I mean,
Yeah, sorry.
everybody's leaving Second Street. I mean, the law firm, swearing, they've been there forever. The funeral home,
Yeah.
Well, it's,
that wouldn't be laid out.
well, leaving, coming in, I mean, that's the nature of cities, a constant evolution. Yeah. Well, the residents, hopefully, with these projects, so.
Who's ever coming in, they aren't utilizing the restaurant brand. I mean, is that the millennials, is that, damn it, whatever.
I'm not a millennial, don't look at me.
I don't know, I can't keep up with what they are. But it seemed like the entertainment is moving to the Midtown, like from State Street up to McClay. I mean,
Well, you guys did,
housing, you get all the,
guys did approve those music venues for Second Street here, and hopefully, I think it's kind of a chicken or an egg sometimes, I think, and if there's a lot of people, they're gonna be demanding, moving downtown, they're gonna be demanding things, whether it's restaurants, music venues, retail. So hopefully that follows, our residents coming in.
I mean, all those apartments on the 100 block of Pine Street, really haven't seen much.
Could I get a motion for adjournment? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I put you guys holding out. Okay, all those in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No. Stand adjourned.